Good morning. We are going to call the morning work session for the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order. Our first order of business is the election of the chairman and vice chairman for the 2023 calendar year. Would anybody like to make a nomination for chairman?
Make it nomination.
Mike. Button. Perfect.
Thank you. I make a motion that we nominate Dan Christopher as chairman for the 2023 year season for the Klickitat County Commissioners.
I will second the motion.
And I would like to make a motion that we nominate Jacob Anderson as the vice chair for 2023 season.
So you want that all as one motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will second that motion for Dan Christopher to be chair and Jacob Anderson to be vice chair for 2023. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. I will hand the gavel to you, sir.
Okay. That caught me by surprise a little bit.
Oh,
so.
sure.
See, we can't talk outside of a meeting, otherwise that one wouldn't have caught me by surprise. With that, we have some time. I don't see our public works director, acting public works director in here yet. With that, does anybody have anything board pending they want to talk about until they get here? I did ask the public works director about the Dallasport Water District rate study, when that was going to be done and when the fee increases that the previous board talked about instituting at the first of the year. So we did have that discussion to bring him back on track. He may bring that up with us when he comes in here today or not. It was just a reminder that we wanted a basic fee increase at the start of the year, and then we'll do a final at the end of the year when we get the whole rate study thing done. That's how it was when we left the Dallasport workshop.
You mean wastewater?
Wastewater, that's what wastewater.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said Dallasport Water District.
Did I? Oh, sorry, wastewater. I don't control fees for the water.
That's what I was wondering.
So he's going to be looking at that and getting back to us with more information. The weekly bills. I'm going to be meeting with the newest auditor and advising them to get us our weekly bills a little bit earlier, so I have time to read them before I'm supposed to vote on them. What else are we going to discuss with board agenda?
We could discuss maybe some priorities for 2023 and what projects we want to work on, or through the legislative session.
Well, we can start with that. I think that's going to be a longer discussion than
10 minutes.
10 minutes or less.
Okay.
Oh, one thing I do, hold that thought. One thing we do need to figure out is, it's my opinion that we have one department now, potentially two, code compliance, potentially public or solid waste, that could see a need for oversight if they don't have a director long term. The way it is now, if code compliance has an issue and they want to bring it up to someone, they don't necessarily have someone to bring it up to, because we all three can't be involved. So I think it would behoove us to have one commissioner that those departments that don't have directors can go to discuss potential things before it comes to the whole board. I think whoever the chairman is that year should be their direct supervisor, I guess is my point, until we still choose that they get an acting director. We put them back in the building department or whatever.
I always understood it as if the board is not in session, the chairman is the board. And so that's how it was.
Right, but I don't know that they know that.
Oh, that's a different question.
So before I was, I guess I would say I was looking for consensus of the board of that opinion, and it sounds like there is consensus of the board. You got all sorts of fun stuff.
That would be just a temporary until,
Until they have a director, or if they have a director.
Okay.
That way, if they have a concern, they have somebody they can bring it up to, and then the chairman would then say, okay, we need to take this to the whole board for consensus on an issue, or this is very small. Here's how to handle it. It gives them somebody to bounce ideas off of without necessarily bringing it in here to the whole board. All right, if we're ready, we'll get started a few minutes early with acting intern Public Works Director Jeff Hunter for a Public Works Department update.
Okay, we have three things on your consent agenda.
Are those mics on, sir? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, I guess I had it up so I
Okay.
didn't get my own echo back, but we had three things on your consent agenda. Two of them are housekeeping things we do every year, which is signing authorization. One is for WashDOT and fiscal reports and vouchers, and the other one is for investing money. Savings for years hasn't been that good, so we really haven't invested a lot. That it is going back up, so we'll probably look a little bit more doing that. And the other one is a consultant agreement with SWCA, which is to provide on-call archaeological services. This is actually our second on-call archaeological contractor. We have not worked with these guys, so we've kept the one we have on staff or on contract just in case. With that, I'll turn it over to Seth to talk about construction and design.
Construction, everything's kind of shut down for the winter, waiting for the weather to break so we can get back on Courtney Road and waiting for a solution for Roosevelt Grade Road paving. On the road design end, the newest thing we've got is the annual striping program project is ready for advertisement. We plan on sending that your guys' way next week for approval to go out to add. Now that we've got our budget in place for the year, we get that out as soon as possible so we can get in the queue for all the stripers out there. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, maintenance crews are still on the east end responding to winter weather. On the west end, we're still cleaning up. I gave you a picture and I've sent you guys the text. This is Mount Adams Highway with the water on it. And after we cleared the water, this is what was left of the highway. What's left of the road, we put gravel on it, as you can see, compacted it, and when we can get asphalt later on in the year, we will pave it back. But for now, it will be a gravel road.
Did the erosion actually wipe out the asphalt, or did it get under the asphalt? Or I mean,
It actually got under, pushed it out and shipped it. You could actually watch it, current take it away.
interesting.
And that's why we ended up closing the road.
is that Trow Road? Is that where that's at? That culvert at Trow Road on the corner? Is that the correct road I'm thinking of? We've
No,
heard
this is
about it
Mount Adams
Okay.
Highway. We've had troubles at Troll Road in the past. We actually went in this year and we put last year, put in bigger culverts,
Okay,
and it held up pretty good. We like to say that it might have been just the water didn't get there because it couldn't get past here, but But yes.
Did it do any damage up at Latagus or on where it goes underneath Stack either?
No, it was close. Actually, at Latigus, we had to have a backhoe there to pull the debris out, mainly chunks of ice, so it didn't
Okay,
take the bridge or at least dislodge the bridge. So yes, we did that. We also had them in town. We actually hired a contractor to come in town, sit right in town to prevent water from backing up because it was right at level with the bridge. And any debris would have plugged it and then it backs up into the post office. So we did take care of that. So we've weathered that storm. Let's see, outside of that, we have a transfer case that went out in our 6-wheel drive dump truck. It's a $30,000 part. That's just to buy the part. Our guys will put it in. We get 12,000 of that back when we exchange the part.
The course 12,000.
Yes. It's a $300,000 piece of equipment. And it's 10 years old. We have a 20-year life, but we'll probably get 25 to 30 years out of one of those trucks just because they're so expensive.
Is this a new or a remodel that you're getting? Is it a reman or?
It's a reman. But we decided not to send it out. Our guys can do it in shop. They have the capacity to do it. And so that will save us some money on not sending it out. But just to kind of let you guys know that you'll see a bill for $30,000 and they'll give us a credit for 12,000 when we send them the cord.
Okay.
Facilities is pretty much the same. Except for, I wanted to ask if the board had heard any comments from the tribes on the water line project. Because the letter, sometimes they'll coordinate with Commissioner Anderson because he's the one that signed the letter at the time. And the letter goes to their board, but you haven't heard anything. We're going to move forward then with move forward with our archaeologist actually doing. Now we can move forward with actually doing the survey.
Waterline project, fairgrounds.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Sure.
yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Dallasport Community Center bathrooms will be complete this week. Again, I appreciate the help for the community council. They did their part. They got them painted. And so they will be finished this week. Radio site's the same. And we talked a little bit about this. I just wanted to give the board a heads up. We received a complaint that we plowed somebody in and that we should plow out their driveways. We don't plow driveways out. If we plow driveways out, we wouldn't have time to plow roads. We treat everybody the same. Everybody's driveway gets plowed in.
Mine does.
Yes, we're not.
And I usually give them the thumbs up and smile and wave. And I don't know if they're thinking I'm sarcastic when I'm doing it or.
you only got one?
So, well, a lot of people know already. Most of the people know. There is a group, Norma, been working with seniors and they have a group and we try to pass that phone number off. This person didn't really want that number. They just said, well, just call the board and somebody will come and plow our driveway. So just giving you the heads up. The last thing I have on our list is the parking signs for the, and we brought one for show and tell. And my understanding is we want these 6 stalls here. Is that correct?
The N6 on the right.
Yes, from this way. Is that correct?
So you want them on starting at the end one over here or starting at the end one by the telephone pole?
Well, I don't, either one, whichever way you guys want.
Here, and then 2 down at Pioneer.
I thought we were one at Pioneer to start.
However you want. It doesn't matter to us. You tell us where. we'll
My
put 'em in.
opinion, and I will leave it to the board consensus that we start on the inside and work that way.
Okay, so start that way from the pole and work this
From
way.
the pole going this
Okay.
way and that It was also under my understanding that we would start with one vehicle at the White Salmon building and the rest of them be here.
So 5 here and 1 at White Salmon? Okay,
Is that? Yes, thumbs up, yes, okay.
Do we know where the one's going in White Salmon?
Where the parking spot's gonna be?
Yeah, where's the sign gonna be?
Where you set the sign.
So we just pick.
Probably at the back end of the parking lot on that back row.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's a nice, easy spot. You can set a sign up there.
Well-
Because then the seniors can all park up close.
I would agree with that, but I don't know that parking lot too well and that vehicle's gonna be parked unattended. So I would say also keep in mind of where the best place that they're not gonna get the catalytic converters cut off.
And I think the buses park back there.
They do.
Mhm.
You're correct. Yes, we have that side, that spot for the buses. And they have been parking the cars pretty much
Back there too.
back there. Yes.
There you go.
I think that's all for our list. And missing something. Is that?
I have one thing. Oh, I already advised my seatmates that you were working on the Dallas Park wastewater rate stuff. Not asking for it to be done by any means, just curious if we've ever thought about it or broached the question. How often are we going to be cleaning or professionally cleaning or whatever the outside of the windows in this building?
You know, that's something we have to talk about. We haven't, actually I'm having lunch with Gordy and I don't know what his plan, I don't know how we missed it. We kind of picked it around because we actually talked about putting it in our annual for our janitorial service, but he doesn't have the ability to clean these windows. So you got to bring somebody in. So we'll have to get a cost and then we'll get a cost and then we'll bring it forward to you guys and you can decide, you know, how often you'd like the windows cleaned. The inside's pretty straightforward, but the outside is.
Okay.
So we'll get a cost, we'll get an estimate, get a cost, and then we'll bring that forward to you in a week or two.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
Has James Dean found a contractor to do the paving at Courtney yet for the spring?
Granted,
Granted is gonna do it. Okay.
yes.
Do we have a time frame?
I do not yet. I will, we'll talk to them again. I know they want to fix that erosion control issue they had. Jeff wants to get up there as soon as the weather allows. And then they have a few things. If you've driven up there, there's a little bit of a lip when you come off the upper side that needs to still be cut down. They didn't do that. They're going to do that before the paving. And then they'll have to sweeten it up a little bit, regrade it. But yeah, we want it done as soon as possible too, so we can be done with it. And so does he. But we'll try to get a time. I know he's going to say weather dependent.
And everything else is holding up. We haven't found any soft spots or anything.
No, everything else is holding up pretty
I actually have one more thing. Mill site asbestos cleanup. I'm
Okay.
sure that's something that's on our radar. When we do it is a different story, but it's at least on our radar. I spoke with a gentleman up at the County Leaders Conference with Restorical.com. That they, Benjamin Cassifer, I got an email and whatnot. I got his card if you need it. What they do is they're like archaeology of insurance companies.
Uh-huh.
So you essentially hire them for nothing unless they get you money, and then they dig through a site to find out who the insurance companies were throughout that time, and then go after them for the hazardous cleanup of the site.
Okay.
And then if they get you money, obviously they get a percentage of it. So
Right.
it sounds pretty risk averse to me.
Mhm.
And since that's something we probably should be dealing with. I didn't know your opinion of this type of a thing, or if that's something you would be interested in looking into, or my seatmates would be interested in looking into, to try to avoid taxpayer funds being spent on a cleanup.
We can look into it. We've I did the original cost estimate and brought in a contractor to evaluate what would have to be done to clean it up. And so I could explain it to them probably. But no, we will look up historical.com and try to get in touch unless you happen to have his contact information.
I do have his contact.
That would be
information,
outstanding.
And it's been at historical.com.
Okay. Okay, we will touch base with him.
And that's all I had on my little cheat sheet here to remind me. Anybody else?
No, not
Nope.
me, I'm good.
Nope. All right,
Okay.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
I'm just looking up historical.
Oh, last question. Parking meters, electric parking meters out here. Remind me again, are they free for anybody to plug in, or do they have to actually have a debit card and they pay for their own power?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'll check into that.
Because as I was sitting here, believe it or not, in my office last night at 6:30 PM, 7 PM. The only one around, a nice fancy car backed into the power station and hooked up. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So it kind of makes me wonder if we're buying gas for somebody in the neighborhood or if they're buying their own gas. If they're buying their own gas, I'm fine with it. But yeah, if you could double check that one.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
All right, next up, department update from Code Compliance Officer George Sendejas.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So this month's update is a little short. Due to holidays, vacations, sick days. Had to delay my vehicle broke down on SR14 on December 13th. So I've been kind of grounded in my office. Lee was gracious enough to get me a temporary vehicle, so I'm back on the road now. The number of cases is below average with 26 open cases. 6 were closed between this update and last. I received another 2 complaints, but they're pending site investigations to validate claims. And then to follow up on the previous update, I contacted the owner of Pothole Road, and through certified mail, he received my letter, but I have not received a response yet. I did reach out to the treasurer's office regarding Troll Lane. As of now, I'm holding off the plans of abatement due to unforeseen circumstances. And then the third property will require paper service, as I haven't been able to track down the property owner of North Lake. And then finally, I drove out to Yakima to reach out to the property owner of the dangerous structures in Roosevelt. And I was able to locate a next of kin. I informed him about the complaint, and I also directed them to the treasurer's office due to the foreclosure status of the properties. And it is, from my understanding, that all the back taxes are paid now, so, which was good. One reason why I wanted to reach out to the property owner was just to at least inform him, give him a chance to at least not lose their property, so. Any questions?
Can you tell us more about Tro?
This is all hearsay. I haven't been able to confirm it, but it does appear like the property owner passed away. So it's all hearsay. There might be another person stepping in to buy the property or inherit the property, so it's kind of it's a mess right now. So the treasurer's office just suggested we kind of see how things go, and then act accordingly.
Sounds good. No
No questions
No,
about anything code compliance related? It's a
I'm
good
good.
chance to get updates here.
I'm good.
Okay.
I did, I saw the complaints on the milepost 10 in Klickitat.
Okay,
Yeah, so the sheriff's office has been trying to get that RV out of there. It is county owned property, but getting tows around here is pretty hard.
did they,
So-
weren't able to locate a VIN or the owner or anything? It's been
No.
stripped,
Is it a stripped abandon or are they actually living in a hobo camp type thing?
stripped, abandoned, and afraid it's gonna become a camp if it doesn't move.
Yeah.
And it's been there several months.
It's been there a while.
Mhm.
Yeah. It wasn't reported stolen.
It's not in that bad
And-
a shape, but it looked like
No.
maybe it had some damage to the front end. So somebody just dumped it.
And the location of it makes it not ideal for tow companies.
At least in wet, soggy weather.
Yeah. Well, this has been way before then, but just to get down there. The sheriff's office did talk about maybe Public Works was gonna assist them in some way to get the trailer out of there, but that's hearsay, I don't know, but I do know that the sheriff's office has been tagging it, and it's well overdue for a tow. Which brings me into another kind of side tangent, but have we ever thought about using Public Works for issues like this where tow companies won't? I have at least 2 cases that I know that it makes sense why tow companies don't want to come, especially to Klickitat, to pick up a abandoned RV when they're essentially not going to get their money back, and no one's going to claim it. It's abandoned, and it creates like traffic issues and parking issues. So essentially, after contacting a lot of tow companies, like no one wants to take on these roles. So it did make me wonder if maybe we could use our own resources that just either just junk the abandoned RVs, or if we could at least relocate them.
So it's my opinion. Anything Public Works does, the general fund taxpayer has to pay for it.
Mhm.
So all Public Works is done by road fund. They're limited. The dollars have to be spent on roads, not anything else. So technically, could we use Public Works? Yes, they would just bill us for it, just like anything else. The tow companies don't want that RV because it's gonna cost them $1,000 to get rid of it. And you're never gonna wanna pay $1,000 tow bill. So the only way to get rid of those things is literally via excavator, ripping it apart and putting it in a contractor box and hauling it to the dump, or getting it to the dump somehow. If you got it to the dump, you can just roll it right out on the active face and they'll roll over with a bulldozer. But I don't know that you can destroy the vehicle. Let's say send Public Works down there with an excavator to pick this thing apart and put it in a box until we can claim ownership. So that would be the question. And then it would be, does this county use Public Works to destroy things and put them in a contractor box, or do we hire a local company to do said thing? And that's something that hopefully is on your radar. To, I guess I would say, work with and get estimates on and bring forth to the board for guidance on how we want to move forward. Because it's not only the vehicle there, it's going to be Hulk vehicles on people's properties, nuisance abatement, cleanup type stuff as well. And so I would say, yeah, contact, there's at least, I know of at least one other local company that does it with an excavator. And then check with Public Works. The negative there is it's union, so is it in their job description? And
Yeah,
do some research and let us know, because we need to come up with a solution.
yeah, it's becoming far more common, so it's definitely something we need to address.
And that would be the next other thing too, is figure out, number one, how long would we have to file for an abandoned vehicle title before we can
Mhm.
claim it to access responsibility to be able to destroy it? Do we have to tow it to the fairgrounds just so it doesn't turn into a camp down there, and then wait 4 months for the title before we can destroy it and get it out of here? Do some research on that kind of stuff and let us know what you come up with.
Okay.
Is it abandoned in the right of way, or is it just abandoned on county property?
On the very back side of county property.
So it's on property, so it's not in the right of way.
They brought it in away from the right of way in a sand pit by the river,
Okay.
behind bushes.
It's a nice view for whoever moved it down there.
Yeah.
But we don't know ownership or.
Is the removal of that at the sheriff's level now? Are they the ticking time clock that we'll find out when they'll say?
From my understanding, if it's a county property, they have they can put a 24-hour tow on it,
Okay,
from my understanding. And so they would essentially have to move it right away, but when no one cares or no one wants to claim it, it just stays there and essentially in empty threats,
Well, it's the same deal. If it's in a bad spot that a tow truck can't get to it, whether the sheriff department hires an excavator or whether they hire Public Works to go with an excavator and drag the thing up to the road to where a tow truck can hook up to it, you still got to be willing to get a tow truck company that's willing to bill us $300 to tow away something that's going to cost them $1,000 to get rid of. So you still have the underlying problem. But it would be nice to get it out of there before it turns into a camp this spring.
and have you looked for like a third-party salvager, somebody that tears apart something like that for the metal and those things, and then they clean it all up and take it away?
Now, there's, other than the
I know
frame,
there's very few.
there's not much. That's why Portland is the way Portland is now, because people with old derelict trailers like mine get a estimate of $1,500 or something to get rid of it, and it's like, I can just go offer it to that guy for $5 and he'll take it, and I can just park it there, and now it's out of my hands and I don't have to pay the $1,500 anymore. So I think that's what's happening in Portland. I sold mine for $1,000, so to a family member.
Mhm.
But
also-
that's where all those trailers are coming from. There is no scrap in them.
Okay,
There's no value. And if you drive down like Sandy Boulevard, you see all the tow company lots are absolutely full of those things, and they won't even pick them up for the city of Portland anymore, just to have nowhere to put them.
there is a local mobile home mover in Lyle, Washington, and I know they have taken single wides bigger to the dump and moved those. So I don't know how small they would consider taking on a contract.
Yeah, if it was a nuisance abatement kind of thing where they knew they were gonna get the $1,000 and not just a $300 tow bill, I think we can get rid of them. It's just a matter of reaching out
Mhm.
to those and working with some of the nuisance abatement contractor type people. Like I said, I know there's one here that destroys trailers in Holland Way, so project.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we can come up with some answers and make some contracts and be able to speed up the process on the next one.
That's the goal. Slowly, but
Lots of these to do.
yeah, lots of to-do list. I did schedule a workshop on the 13th for short-term rentals. I'm sure that's what, I don't know who suggested that I had a supervisor, but I'm sure that was one of the reasons. The short-term rentals, yeah. There's been an influx in the amount of short-term rental calls that I receive. I would say around like 3 to 5 every week. And they're usually they're not necessarily complaints, they're just verbal complaints. Like my neighbor has an Airbnb and he has, people revolving through the house and they're
Are they complaining about traffic on the road,
No,
noise of
everything, yeah.
parties?
so
I just don't like my neighbor, so I want to complain. I mean, what are we?
a little bit of
everything?
everything, yeah. Designated parking, noise, trash, traffic. But that's why on this upcoming workshop, I would like to at least suggest some so at least task me out with some minimum requirements for short-term rentals. It could be just little stuff like verifying that they have a fire suppression, like a fire extinguisher, fire escape plans, ADA, designated parking, the trash is secure, stuff like that, so that I could essentially not forbid short-term rentals from happening, but just regulate them a little bit so that these complaints don't happen as often. And then either having not necessarily me become the noise complaint person, but essentially having contact information for short-term rental owners, so that if there is noise complaints or I receive noise complaints or someone else within the county, I can relay that to the property owner and say, hey, you need to take care of this. And then hopefully it doesn't, become something that happens frequently, so.
When we were working on short-term rentals 2 years ago, which I feel we'll be working on again shortly, we discussed what would qualify as a short-term rental and how to get a permit and whatever, but there was also discussion on oversight. And I think where it was left, which that was 2 years ago, it can change tomorrow, was that there would be a short-term rental advisory board per se that had short-term rental people that sat on it. So if there was a complaint, they would lodge it with their own body. And in order to get your yearly short-term rental permit, you have to prove you don't have a bunch of complaints. But I think you're right. I think it needs a workshop, and that whole thing needs flushed out and fixed in time.
Yeah.
Questions?
I have some questions about George's position. I'm from the old school of Skip Grimes and Joyce DeVries and code compliance. And back in the day, it was abandoned vehicles or trash around houses. And has it expanded to where every department that gets like a code infraction, no matter which department, can send it over your way? And then he's not only dealing with the things that are abandoned, but now we're talking about you're going to have to start looking into code compliance for short-term rentals. What's that going to migrate to next? How full is his plate? Does he have a description of where his code compliance responsibilities are? We could have a really big unintended consequence for him of, I have 500 complaints to deal with of all these
Yeah,
different
yeah.
kinds. So.
And I've thought about that too, which, essentially I am willing to take on the responsibility, but not. The problem to me is that we don't even know the number of short-term rentals in the county. From Airbnb, there's like 500 that I checked like last week. And the way that the code is written at the moment, it's really even the definitions of a short-term rental are really all over the place. And right now I'm going off of RCWs for short-term rentals. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to get worked out. And I think you're right. If I did take on, I don't necessarily want to be like a full-time short-term rental, just inspector, but I would like the capability of doing something if someone complains and saying, hey, these are the issues that I have, and at least being able to talk to the property owners and advising them on certain areas. And obviously, from my understanding, I did talk to Airbnb on their requirements. And it's really hard for the to get them to admit what they require and what they don't. It's like a suggestion, right? It's not a requirement. And that was my issue. It's like, okay, so then who's watching over these? You know, are you doing a home visit when you accept a property? And that would be what I would like to do, is just go out there, make sure that the structures are at least, you know, operational. There's no clear indications of structural damage or huge safety concerns, and then essentially just
We now have a lodging tax advisory board. I believe they're new. And
Yes, kind of, go ahead.
you could, in a way, they would be a valuable resource for you, because they're the ones that are going to know who is actually a licensed business, because they're paying in that lodging tax and their portion goes through revenue and then drops back to us. To be legitimate on VRBO or any of those, you have to have your business license and give them a copy. They have to know that you're cooperating with revenue. And then that comes back down to the county. We know if at least they're licensed.
I don't think the Logic Tax Advisory Board
Okay.
knows who's licensed. They just get the check from the state and distribute the check for tourism funds.
But they'll have access to that because it is coming. They have access. It's public record that you can look at that. I'm just saying it might be a coordinating place for you to start with some kind of oversight board. Since we have a board, maybe they can expand a little bit what they look at.
Have you had a chance to review the draft short-term rental ordinance that Lynn Ward put together on April 5th of 2021?
I have not.
Okay, so, I mean, this was a discussion back in April of 2021. We had hardship, short-term rental, and the Good Neighbor Guidebook, all three going through at the same time. We were not able to act on creating a short-term rental ordinance. In terms of, you know, you wanting to just go out and check for smoke detectors or smoke alarms or whatever. That's usually done, you know, when a house gets permitted and through the building department. I think what we need to do in order to have you go out and do that is we need to adopt a short-term rental ordinance that specifies, and I'm going to email it to you right now.
Yeah.
It was a great draft. She took, I think, Skamania County, the city of White Salmon, and created that basis of understanding and knowledge, you know, to create and draw that up. I think if that's something that we want to put on that priority list for this year, that's something that we should definitely talk about. But I'll email this to you right now.
Yeah. And I agree that most of these homes are most likely permanent, you know.
So
But there is stuff that a normal home doesn't have, you know, like my house doesn't have a fire escape plan, you know, just because I live there, you know, or like just, I don't know, like
but does the county want to be the short-term rental Nazis? And give you a nice
yeah.
uniform where you go out and double check to make sure everybody's legal and has their papers? And for me, the answer is no. Complaint driven county. I do think we need to, Commissioner Anderson, that same ordinance is sitting literally on my desk. It kind of got filed away for 2 years. Now it's back up. I think you will hear us have this discussion later when we start talking about pending what we want to do. We will be having workshops, I'm sure, discussing this issue and where we go and working on this ordinance and get more guidelines. I think your workshop talking about it might end up being kind of putting the cart before the horse, because we're working on solutions before we fix the problem. But I think we're going to take what you have for workshop and potentially actually start the discussion.
Yeah, and that's
fixing
essentially
you.
my goal, is like I've talked individually to every department, and every department's like on a different page. And it seems like this is a really sore subject for a lot of departments. So I would just like to have them all in a room and we need to sit down and discuss. Even though most of us don't want to, but it's like at least
It needs
have a
fixed.
discussion. Yeah.
So let's get it fixed. And that's my intention.
Well, if I recall correctly, what stopped us is there was disconnect between planning and building on creating the ordinance. At the time, I think planning was under the impression that we would need a comp plan update in order to create a short-term rental ordinance. I think that
I think-
was one of the major holdups, and I don't know if that's still a holdup. I don't know if opinions have changed or not on that.
I think that was a tool that was used to postpone any chance. But it doesn't mean we need a comp plan update. Maybe we need an amendment to the comp plan so that we can get some work done. I think that was a tool used to put a blockade in front of it because I think the major conflict was the differing opinion of what should be classified as a short-term rental. Should somebody be able to rent a yurt or a tent or whatever? And the conflict was there. And in those determinations, and that's what got it kind of to get some roadblocks put in front of it and tell us we have to do a whole comp plan review before we can do that. Again, there's no reason that you can't, if that's the case, you can't just do an amendment to the comp plan. So, but again, we'll have that discussion in a workshop and get better information as we move forward. Anything else?
Okay, you have all three of those now.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah. All righty.
All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I know we're kind of into board pending again. We got an email from Prosecutor Cannell. How do we wish to handle the billing for the outside counsel for the water right transfer? Lee, should that just go through, the billing go through us, or should it go through the PAs?
We do it. Excuse me. We have a line item in non-departmental. Financial. Like if you go through that.
For outside counsel type stuff.
It's for any legal stuff.
Right. I guess the other question would be is, do we want to pay half of the bill up front, or do we want to reimburse the city for, have them pay it and then we reimburse them out of that line item? And can we do that?
As long as the invoice is for our house.
Okay. What's the board's,
What I do.
let the city pay the bill and we'll invoice?
If they're willing to, I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine with me either way. I mean, as long as they have our word, we're gonna pay our half. They shouldn't have a problem as long as we have an invoice. I'm fine either way.
Which water right?
I apologize. That's the
Airport, okay.
airport.
Or, well,
And so we're talking City of the Dalles.
City of the Dalles.
Okay.
This is for outside legal counsel for an FAA litigator. To look at the contract and deal with something.
Yes. Yeah. Just I know the players, I'm okay now.
I apologize. I'll try
No, that's
to
okay.
be more specific.
Ask more
There's-
questions.
I'm coming in behind you.
No, that works. You gotta get it, so. Still typing? Want us to go on while you're typing or? do
Yeah,
you
you
want us-
keep
Okay,
going. I'm just
okay.
responding to David.
Other thing I have on my board pending list is we need to discuss and address who will be sitting on the Financial Software Steering Committee. So for our new seatmate, this was the replacement of the Kayenta software. It was the treasurer, public works, auditor, and Dave Sauter were sitting on there.
Okay,
And they were working with the company that's setting up our ask on how we're gonna get to new financial software. Well, obviously, 3 of those are removing, so we'll have a new public works person, a new auditor person, we need a new commissioner person. We have yet to pick that person. I will mention that I was asked by at least one member on that board to be that person. But I'll leave that up to you two on who you feel would be the best representative to sit on that board. They did say that when I asked them whether it should be a yearly, like just the chairman every year, they're like, no, it needs to be a minimum of a 2-year term for continuity. So that's what I know of it, but we need to come up with an answer on that. Input?
Who has the most experience with software and development and computers? I mean, that's who I would say it would need to be of
I agree.
us. And I don't know what your background is with computers. Either of you.
I'm not your computer person. I would gladly work hard and learn what I need, but I'm not your computer.
Honestly, I think
And if you've kept up to speed on it,
how I'll walk kind of gingerly on this. I don't know that I can walk gingerly on it. I would say that I am knowledgeable on computers. I've built websites, I've done coding. It's old and outdated in my head, where I would say that you potentially know more than I do on that. But I don't think that's the reason why the board wants me on that committee. I think it's more of a continuity. And I'll leave it at that. Has anybody on that previous board asked you to be the person?
Like the people that are gone or the people that are still there?
Well, there was 4 of them. There's only one that's still there.
That's what I mean.
Have any of them asked you to be the person? Not naming names at all.
Nope.
and I would agree with all 3 of us and our background knowledge of computers. I think relationships on that board are a very important thing to meld that product. There's some big differences that I've heard between the departments on what they want, but
Not really, because essentially what you're gonna have is this is just a steering committee to guide the working of kind of which software we're getting. And then there's gonna be an underlying board of the actual users.
okay,
The gens, the auditor staff, the public works staff, the people that really need to know the coding and the all that. And then they're gonna report to that board
okay.
essentially. Which then ideally reports to this one. So with that, I think we should probably, instead of moving forward on this today, we've had a discussion and we'll ponder it and readdress it in a week or so. That gives people time to think about it and go from there. Sound logical?
Sure. I'm comfortable probably with my decision. you want to entertain a motion, or would you rather have that time to think?
Whatever. You're more than welcome to make a motion.
I would make a motion that Dan Christopher sit on the, tell me the name of the board, I've lost it.
Financial Software Steering Committee.
Financial Software Steering Committee as representative for the commissioners.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a
Thank you.
motion and a second for me to sit on the Financial Software Steering Committee. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Only other thing I have for board pending is we need to discuss airport board appointment. So the reason why a couple weeks ago I pulled that off the agenda is because I've always believed that when I started, I believe that the person sitting here should have some say in what boards they sit on or what boards they want to sit on. And since that board was a District 2 board, and we have a new District 2 commissioner, I wanted the ability to at least allow that commissioner to have some input or on number one, do they want that board appointment? Do they not want it? It's kind of sure it's all of our constituents because we serve the whole county. But if this was a board that was taking place in the city of Goldendale, should Commissioner one person be sitting on the Goldendale board? And I think that's a discussion that we should have. And I also think that well, let's just go from there. Do you have any interest in sitting on the airport board?
Before I ran for my position, I knew what boards David Sauter had served on. And I was quite a ways into the campaign thinking that that was one of the boards I would be on before I realized Jacob was on that board. I do have interest in Dallasport and the people of Dallasport and the airport and the water districts and the sewer districts, and I have somewhat of a background in them. It's my desire to see that be a success and also create a good relationship with all the partners. That's been some of the discussion that came up during my campaign, where a lot of fireworks go on down in the Dallasport area, and I'll leave it at that.
There's a lot of pieces to Dallasport. There's a lot of pieces to the airport. There's a lot of communication with the city of the Dallas. If you'd like continuity and someone who has experience actually with water rights and serving on water boards to work through these problems, I'm your guy. If you want somebody who knows more about airplane and airports, I'm probably the guy since I'm the one with the pilot's license. It's up to my seatmates. I'm more than willing to continue serving. I think I've added a lot of value during a tumultuous time. But again, and I also see, it's a regional airport. It's not a District 2 airport. It is our regional airport. If you were asking me to serve on, the Goldendale City Airport Board or something like that, I could see that being a difference. But considering it's one of our major economic development hubs in the gorge, I don't see, Dave Sauter used to do a lot with the bridge, Hood River Bridge, even though it was in District 1, but his district's close to 1 too, though.
I guess where I'm at, it sounds like both of you want to sit on the airport board. And there's strong reasons and testimony for both of you to be the person to sit on the airport board. One to me is it's Commissioner Zoller's district. It's her constituents. I mean, yes, they're all of our constituents, but they're her neighbors. But I would also agree that, in my opinion, Commissioner Anderson has far more knowledge of what's going on down there, has far more knowledge of airports, has far more knowledge of water rights, and far more knowledge of the current potential issues and potential litigation that could pop up from down there. But also for that reason, I also think a new face on the board might extend an olive branch and hopefully quash or limit, restrict, restrain some of the parties of interest down there to slow the roll and let us actually handle the contract for that airport. So I guess at this point, my opinion doesn't mean it won't change later. My vote would be to sit Ms. Silver on that board.
Do we want to see what the water district has to say this afternoon?
We can. I'm not in a hurry to make any decisions on the spur of the moment. I don't even mind. You want to wait a week? We can rediscuss it next week. I was just wanted to throw out where I was at on that. So with that, I don't hear a motion. So we will just move on to the next thing. That's all I had under board pending. Other than everything else is new business, which is kind of like you were saying, do we want to set up our priorities? I was going to do that under new business, but if you want to start it now, we can start it now.
We also have the Swatch board that nobody's been appointed to.
We do. Nobody's ever been appointed to?
No, not this. We haven't appointed this go around.
Could it already be like for the term? I'd have to go back. And pull it.
I got an email from her asking if I was going to serve on it, and I said we haven't set up our appointments for 2022 yet, or 2023, so if I can get the acronym spelled right to see your email.
So is this one that Dave sat on or nobody sat on?
I sat on it last year and there was 2 meetings that I was able to attend.
And which board is it?
Swatch, the Southwest, I'm trying to,
Aging and disabilities,
Okay.
kind of a, is that a different one? Okay.
Okay.
Your health, public health director also attends those meetings.
Okay.
yeah.
I can gather some information about for the discussion. Would be fine.
Sure. I'm just trying to find the email from her.
Are you asking for like horse trading to trade this board for that board with somebody or? you
I'd
just-
be happy not serving on it.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I'm saying, so. Okay, we need to make sure the board appointments even out. They haven't always evened out in the past.
Well, I think evening out, some boards take far more time. than
Time
others.
consuming than others, yeah.
I mean, you're gonna be on ledge steering, which
That one's
is,
an interesting.
which is can be ridiculously time consuming for a short amount of time. You also just took on the oversight of the financial programs.
Are there any of, I guess I'm kind of looking at it that if we do go the route of appointing Ms. Silver for the airport board, that removes one of yours and adds to one of hers. So ideally, you would lighten the load by taking one of the other ones that she has. If you're looking at getting rid of that one over there too, I would say ideally you would need to look at what she has on her list that you might be able to loosen the load.
I think what we need to do is we need to see the list of all of them. All our board appointments in front of us so that we can look at them.
I have a draft already prepared. but I have to work
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it isn't hard that, you know, if we've already made a motion a week ago to sit on the board, or we're making a motion today for somebody to sit on the board, we could switch it up with just another resolution kind of thing. Okay. Do you want to go over board meeting or maybe do that at the next meeting, or do you want to do that at the next workshop?
Or
To go over boards and
probably
list.
the workshop will be fine.
Any other board pending fun stuff? Either one of my seatmates, nothing on that side.
Not right now. I mean, we still got the.
We'll have another board pending this afternoon, so, okay. All right, hearing nothing else before the board, I would entertain a motion for recessing for lunch.
So moved.
Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you. Having a motion and a second, we will take a vote to recess for lunch until 1 o'clock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Waiting for a second eye.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Second eye, third eye. Motion passes. Recess for lunch at 1 o'clock.